All right, let's get this started, y'all. Today, we are going to be reviewing the book of Jonah. Book of Jonah. Very interesting book. Um, we're going to read the entire book. I'm going to go ahead and read the entire book and go over it word for word, and then give my opinions on uh, Jonah and what Jonah was. So, start with this. Chapter 1. Jonah flees from the Lord. The word of the Lord came to Jonah, the son of Amittai, sorry about that. Go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it, because wickedness has come up before me. So I want there to be some lessons in this. I'm just going to go through it, right? But Jonah ran away from the Lord and headed to Tarshish. He went down to Joppa, where he found a ship bound for that port. After paying the fare, he went aboard and sailed for Tarshish to flee from the Lord. Then the Lord sent a great wind upon the sea, and such a violent storm arose that the ship threatened to break up. All the sailors were afraid, and each cried out to his own God. Then they threw the cargo into the sea to lighten the ship. But Jonah had gone below deck, where he lay down and fell into a deep sleep. The captain went to him and said, "How can you sleep? Get up and call on your God. Maybe he will take notice of us so that we will not perish." Then the sailors said to each other, "Come, let us cast lots to find out who is responsible for this calamity." They cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. So they asked him, "Tell us who is responsible for making all this trouble for us. What kind of work do you do? Where do you come from? What is your country? From what people are you?" He answered, "I am a Hebrew and I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land." Then they were terrified and asked him, "What have you done?" They knew he was running from God because he had already told them so. The sea was getting rougher and rougher. So they asked him, "What should we do to make the sea calm down for us?" He then said, "Pick me up and throw me into the sea." He replied, "It will become calm. I know that it's my fault that this great storm has come upon you." Instead, instead of throwing him into the sea, the men did their best to row back to land, but they could not. They even did what they could to try to save this guy instead of throwing him over, but they could not. For the sea grew even wilder than before. Then they cried out to the Lord and said, "Please, Lord, do not let us die for taking this man's life. Do not hold us accountable for killing an innocent man, for you, Lord, have done as you pleased." Then they took Jonah and threw him overboard. At this, the men greatly feared the Lord, and they offered a sacrifice to the Lord and made vows to him. So let me stop right there. Jonah, because I'm going to get on to the lesson of this later. These men, even though they did not worship the same God as Jonah, they were calm. Um, they respected God, even though they did not worship that God. And they were very respectful of Jonah. I guess because even they knew Jonah's rebellion had caused them issues. So now the Lord provided a huge fish to swallow Jonah. And Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. Chapter 2. From inside the fish, Jonah prayed to the Lord his God. He said, "In my distress, I called to the Lord, and he answered me. From deep in the realm of the dead, I called for help, and you listened to my cry. You hurled me into the depths, into the very heart of the seas, and the current swirled about me. All your waves and breakers swept over me. I said, I have been banished from your sight, yet I will look again toward your holy temple. The engulfing waters threatened me. The deep surrounded me. Seaweed was wrapped around my head. To the roots of the mountains I sank down. The earth beneath me barred me in forever. But you, Lord my God, brought my life up from the pit. When my life was ebbing away, I remembered you, Lord, and my prayer rose to you, to your holy temple. Those who cling to worthless idols turn away from God's love for them. But I shouts of grateful praise will sacrifice to you. What I have vowed, I will make good. I will say, salvation comes from the Lord. And the Lord commanded the fish and vomited Jonah onto dry land. So Jonah's accepting his fate with this. Obviously, Jonah has some relationship with the Lord, right? He recognizes his voice from the very beginning. Through this prayer, we can see things that God had done for him. Jonah goes to Nineveh. Then the word of the Lord came to Jonah a second time. Go to the great city of Nineveh and proclaim to it the message I give to you. Jonah obeyed the word of the Lord and went to Nineveh. Now Nineveh was a very large city. It took 3 days to go through it. Jonah began going on a day's journey into the city, proclaiming, 40 more days and Nineveh will be overthrown. The Ninevites believed God. A fast was proclaimed, and all of them, from the greatest to the least, put on a sackcloth. When Jonah's warning reached the king of Nineveh, he rose from his throne, took off his royal robes, covered himself with sackcloth, and sat down in the dust. This is the proclamation he issued in Nineveh. By the decree of the king and his nobles, do not let the people, animals, herds, flocks taste anything. Do not let them eat or drink. But let the people and animals be covered with sackcloth. Let everyone call urgently to God. Let them give up their evil ways and their violence. Who knows? God may yet relent with compassion, turn from his fierce anger so that we will not perish. When God saw what they did and how they turned from their evil ways, he relented and did not bring on them the destruction he had threatened. Chapter 4. Jonah's anger at the Lord's compassion. But to Jonah, this seemed very wrong, and he became angry. He prayed to the Lord, isn't this what I said, Lord, when I was still at home? This is what I tried to forestall by fleeing to Tarshish. I know that you are a gracious and compassionate God, slow to anger and abounding in love, a God who relents from sending calamity. Now, Lord, take away my life, for it is better for me to die than to live. But the Lord replied, is it right for you to be angry? Jonah had gone out and sat down at a place east of the city. There he made himself a shelter, sat in its shade, and waited to see what would happen to the city. Then the Lord God provided a leafy plant, made it grow up over Jonah to give shade and to ease his discomfort. And Jonah was very happy about that plant. But at dawn, the next day, God provided a worm which chewed the plant so that it withered. When the sun rose, God provided a scorching east wind, and the sun blazed on Jonah's head so that he grew faint. He wanted to die and said, it would be better for me to die than to live. But God said to Jonah, is it right for you to be angry about the plant? It is, he said, and I'm so angry I wish I were dead. This is very interesting. But the Lord said, you have been concerned about this plant, though you did not tend it or make it grow. It sprang up overnight and died overnight. And should I not have concern for the great city of Nineveh, in which there are more than 120,000 people who cannot tell their right hand from their left, and also many animals? And that's it. Okay. Okay. There's going to be some ranting here, right? You're going to get some ranting with this one. Because look at this story. This is a story of bitterness. This is a story of somebody. Let's take it from the very first chapter, right? The very first chapter, I don't know Jonah's life pre the chapter, but Jonah knew the city of Nineveh. He may have lived there. He may have lived close to Nineveh, but hated Nineveh. And it reminds me of people who need to abound amongst people that they have this disdain for. And I can almost bet you that he was around those people and wished on their downfall. And when God, he was kind of using like the Bible against them. He's like, I'm around these people. I hate these people. I know that they're not following God, and God is going to destroy them. And then when God called Jonah to change those people, Jonah didn't want to do it because he wanted to see the people destroyed. He wanted to see them continue in their ways because of his hatred for those people. And you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of the community, right? People say the community, right? My opinion is if it's causing you so much of an issue, either try to save it or remove yourself from it completely. Why is it in the book of Jonah, why is it only when God calls him to do something about the people of Nineveh does he try to leave the entire place? If you knew Nineveh was that bad, why didn't you try to leave before? Because some people want to abide around people who hate them, right? Or who they perceive that hate them. They want to abide in misery. They want to. They really do. Because I've never seen in the Bible, I've never seen any story like this at all. Look at chapter 4. Look at after he went into the city and told these people to accept God, they did. There was no resistance at all. They literally all believed everything that he said, and they all turned from their ways and accepted God instantly. They didn't put him in jail. He wasn't penalized for his words. Nothing bad came of him. Nothing bad came to Jonah at all for him doing this. He was told to do something, but he did not want to save those people. He wanted to see them burn. And there's a very interesting part in this entire book, right? Where he said in chapter 4, as soon as all the people came back to God in the knowledge of God, he said, isn't this what I said when I was at home? My speculation on that is this, is I think Jonah attempted to tell people about God the first time, and the people didn't accept it. And maybe they didn't accept him. And so that caused bitterness, and he just had a well, fuck it attitude. And because they did not accept this the first time, he wanted to see them suffer. He wanted that. He would have rather seen them suffer than them turn away and actually do the right thing. And he abided in them, amongst them. That's the problem. You lived amongst these people of Nineveh. You lived amongst them. And you knew if your opinion was they were evil, why did it take God calling you for you to run away then? And I think that's why God called them. Because some people, if you're going to abound amongst the bullshit, if you're going to be amongst the drama by choice, then I think God is going to tell you to do something about it. Either do something about it or leave. And why was it that the minute that he was called, all of a sudden he wanted to leave? And then look at the temper tantrum he threw. He literally, have you ever seen somebody who is so bitter or so mad that even in victory, they're still just pissed? He converted the whole city and made the whole city repent. He could have possibly become some leader of that city. But out of his hatred and bitterness for those people, it caused him to block his own blessings. And I'm honestly guessing, based upon the first time he got upset, that he had tried to do this before and it didn't work. And that's the whole thing about God's timing. This is the most abrupt end of a Bible story that I've ever seen. We don't know what happened to Jonah after this. We don't know if he got married. We don't know if he had children. We don't know how he lived his life. He got so upset that the people were doing what they wanted them to do originally. He left the city. He chose to go live out in the desert. He wanted to die because those people decided to do what was right. What an interesting person. Then it's funny when like kids throw a temper tantrum, but even then, God was still looking out for him. God got him a plant to cover his head. God didn't want him to feel bad because he literally, sometimes people want to see other people lose more than they want to see themselves win. And Jonah was winning, but it wasn't good enough because he didn't see other people lose. So he then threw a temper tantrum about a plant. And God told him, so if you throw a temper tantrum about a plant and you're mad that a plant is going to be destroyed, what am I to think about a city with over 100,000 people? With animals, livestock, things like that? What am I supposed to think about that? Craziness, if you ask me. Just sounds like another hater. Sounds like another hater to me. And the last thing before I end here this evening, I want to talk about, and I know I covered this on a stream before, but how even in your rebellion, God will show himself through punishment. When Jonah attempted to run away from God, I don't know what the hell he was thinking. He should have ran away before then. It caused the people on the ship to come to know God. It caused the people on the ship to have respect for God. They did not want to kill Jonah. They did not want to throw him overboard. They even asked God forgiveness for doing so because they came to know the Lord through God's punishment. And I'm telling you, this is the strangest Bible story I've ever read in my, like there's no resistance in anybody. This is just a grown ass man throwing a temper tantrum because he wants to see other people continue to do the wrong thing and continue to perish. You know why he wants to do that? because he wants to be able to say, I told you so. This is all ego. He wants to be able to say, I told you so. You should have accepted God. Now I'm going to laugh at your destruction. Right? That's what he wanted to do. But instead, who got destroyed? He went off and lived somewhere. You know, this reminds me, and somebody told me this in college, and I saw this episode of Malcolm in the Middle, right? Where I guess there were the cool kids, and then there was the losers. And Malcolm in the Middle, not being one of the perceived cool kids, right? During prom, he got a group of people together to boycott the prom and start their own prom. The people who were not, I guess, accepted by the mainstream high schoolers or whatnot. And they created their own prom, and the prom was really, really nice, right? They had a dance floor, all this. I think the prom was like downstairs, right? And Malcolm organized it. It was really good. But it wasn't good enough for Malcolm, because Malcolm had to go upstairs after he built his own prom and let the people know who never knew anything about him that he built his own prom and he didn't need their prom. So once again, winning isn't good enough for some people. It's all about seeing other people lose, not seeing themselves win. I can't enjoy my toy without letting everybody else know that I have one and they don't. And heaven forbid that they get one of their own. So don't be a Jonah. Don't be a Jonah. With that being said, I mean, I'm at my 20 minutes, and I got the Cash App in the description. I'm building this slowly but surely. Hit the email if you guys want to see anything else. I lost my voice a little bit. The Chiefs just won. But this is the story of Jonah. And with that, I will end today. Make sure you like. Hold on a second. Let me see how many likes I got on here. Get my likes up, please, if you can. All 8 of you who watch my stuff. Hold on a second. Let me see how many likes I got on here. 10 likes. Get my likes up, please. So with that being said, I'm out of here. I will see you guys. I'm working on some stuff. I did the Bogota story. I got Bogota part 2 coming through. I'm really terrible at editing videos. Like the last one I edited was a disaster. I got to start studying video editing so I can make a little bit of better videos. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and end this, and I will talk to you guys later.